it is Dr. Jen with Aging Advantage, and today we are hanging out at Southern Bus and Mobility again with Joey, and he is going to be showing us a truck and also an SUV and how they are able to convert them and make them accessible for all of you with wheelchairs and all the different types of mobility things that you use, scooters, etc. And anyway, just we're super excited for you guys to be able to see how all these really cool features work. And again, Aging Advantage, we are a non-for-profit here in the St. Louis area, and we serve St. Louis and surrounding areas. And we just help you guys to be able to live a more resilient and independent life, and also help with different issues, that you all might have, and helping to keep you all supported. And so through donations and grants, etc., we're able to partner with incredible organizations and companies like Southern Bus and Mobility to provide these educational opportunities for all of you. So anyway, sit back, relax, get whatever you're drinking, get cozy, and we're going to hang out with Joey in just a second.
All right, guys. Joey Pindell here with Southern Bus Mobility. And so today we got a couple of different options that are going to be different from the vans that we showed you before. I'm just going to really just dive into it because this is one of the cool vehicles that we have here today. It's going to be a GMC truck. And we had it sent off to ATC. And ATC is located up in Indiana. And what they're able to do is they're able to give you another option besides having a van. So this cool truck for one of my customers, we're able to get it outfitted on the driver's side. So you can do driver's side or you can do passenger side, but you can only do one or the other. So driver or passenger if you do decide to send up a GMC truck to get it converted. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys the cool features that this has that's going to allow my client to be able to drive from his manual wheelchair and be completely and 100% independent with his truck. So first of all, how's he going to get in? Let me show you. So the doors are welded together and they have a gull wing feature. And what that does is allows that whole side to lift up. Now, once the whole side is lifted up, then what he'll do is he'll send out the seat. So once it's down, you're like, hey, how's he going to be able to drive from his manual wheelchair? Well, we have this cool feature that allows to remove the seat completely. So what he'll do is he'll take out the seat, have someone help him, put it in the garage, put it in the basement, somewhere safe. So later on, if he ever wants to put it back in there or have someone drive, he can always throw it in. But what happens is the seat is removed. And if you guys recall, we talked about it before, the different locking systems and the different features that we have to keep people safe and in the vehicle. Well, this right here is going to be the Q lock. So what he'll do is he'll take his manual chair and he's going to back up, and underneath of his manual chair, he's going to have a bolt. And this bolt, he's going to line up into this lock, come in here, and he's going to click and lock in. So once he's locked in with his manual chair, then he's going to use the key fob that he has. And what he's going to do is he's going to go right back in. So if you can visualize, he's sitting there in his manual chair. He's going to raise himself up back into the vehicle. And then close. But before I fully close it, I do want to show you guys the feature that he's going to have that's going to allow him to be able to drive from his wheelchair. And I know we've talked about this, but we've outfitted his truck with hand controls. And so he has a hand control here. And what he can do is you can see there, the rod goes down to the brake. So he's always going to be pushing for brake. And then with his feature, he's going to pull for gas. So the way that's going to look is he's going to go in, start the truck by pushing down on the brake. And then he has this toggle switch right here. He pushes this button, it lights up blue, and then that means his hand controls are active. So now See how I'm pulling back? That's his acceleration. So push for brake, pull back for gas. And then he has a spinner knob that's going to allow him to control the steering wheel. And then he's going to be using the left hand for gas and brake. He has these items on here that were prescribed to him by his driver evaluator that are called sure switches. And what the sure switch will do, it'll allow him to control different aspects like windshield wipers, left blinker, right blinker, and then be able to turn his windshield wipers off. And then you got a little horn tube for that.
That's cute.
So you can go through and depending on what the features someone is looking for, they can go through and change it. And as you see, the windshield wipers are changing speed as I push this button. So it provides him with a safe feature. And if you guys think about it, he doesn't have to take his hands off of the steering wheel and off the hand control and be safe. So he can do everything he needs to do from a safety standpoint, all in one place and in a confined place with his hand controls.
Super cool. Wow. That is amazing. And then the passengers, like you can have regular passengers.
Yep. And then for this conversion, the way it's set up is this one's set up, like I said, it's driving. So when you go over to the other side, your other side is set up for your typical passengers to ride. So this side is going to be opened up. And it still has a feature of his running boards that come down automatically. And yeah.
Wow.
Feature. Again, not it. If someone else wants to drive, you can convert it back into. And there you have it. It's going to be a converted GMC driver side position by ATC Mobile Conversions.
Awesome.
All right, guys. So we have another option for you that is not going to be a minivan. Once again, there's different options because not everyone wants to drive a minivan, but there obviously is nothing wrong with driving a minivan. But here's another example of something they could be in, which is an SUV option. So what Braun Ability has done is they have brought back the Chevy Traverse. They had the Chevy Traverse a couple of years ago, but some things were acting up on it that allowed them or caused them to stop production on the Chevy Traverse. So they went away for a couple of years to really set up their team and really go through the diagnostics and really engineer the Traverse so that it could be working and not as finicky or have any issues. So they really took the time to do a lot of the research and go through and do a lot of product knowledge on the Traverse. And this is what we have today. It is a new Chevy Traverse. This is going to be our midnight package. So you do get the black rims and you get a unique color that are not made available unless you get this package. But the one thing that they did with the Chevy Traverse that they didn't do before is they went through and you have two different key fobs. So what they did is they didn't integrate the key fob into the system and had a separate one, because what was happening is the computer in the Chevy Traverse would get confused, and sometimes you'd have it to where the door would open, sometimes it wouldn't. So they figured, hey, this would be the best direction to be able to unlock it with one. And then the other one is nothing but the fob, because in the past you'd have to go through and hit the unlock button multiple times and that would initiate the ramp. And you could see where someone would be like, oh, let me push it 3 times, or they wouldn't have the patience and get too finicky and push it too much. And what would happen is it would make the ramp stop. So with them integrating a second remote, it allows the individual to press the button. It opens up the door. Similar to the van, you're going to deploy the ramp, and then you're also going to go through and you're going to see the kneel feature. And once again, just a reminder, the feature, what it does is it puts a less of an incline in the ramp and allows an individual to go in and out successfully, whether being pushed in or whether they're driving, but it does help the individual get into the vehicle a lot easier. So some of the features you're going to see, the lights incorporated into the ramp. So Braun is doing that with a lot of their vehicles for nighttime visibility,
That
getting
is
in and out.
super cool. I've
Yeah.
never seen that.
Very, very cool, because it allows
Wow.
individuals to line up, get in and out.
Yeah.
That was a thing in the past where they would have the light underneath the ramp. Now they're just running it down the sides of the ramp and just giving more of that visibility to get in and out.
Amazing.
Another thing that you guys may notice is the door. The door is set up similar to a van style and set up to not open as it would on the other side. And I'll show you that it does traditionally open on the other side. But what they've done is they've gone through and they've incorporated this new style, this door that hinges back like a van. And then another thing that they did this year and what they decided to do with the Traverse is your brackets that come in and hold the van, they're going to be very similar to the van brackets that you see on the Chrysler and some of the other vans. And so they realized, one, you're taking the natural function of the door and turning it into a sliding door, which once again, we're putting things where they don't belong and it's causing a different effect. But what they did before is they didn't have the components of a van. So when it came to locking the door and the door coming shut, it wasn't traditional and it was a little finicky. And so that's where some of the problems were coming up with, was because it's just that natural slide like a van has, or that natural latch. So the engineers figured out, hey, how could we do it to where it's more natural like a van door, to where it's easier on the door and it's easier for it to be sealed and easier for just the whole door to work as a whole. And then another thing that you're going to notice is on the inside here, another feature that they added for the door, for any of you guys that may have seen a Traverse or owned a Traverse before, is all this material here is half of the material that we had before. So with it being half of the material before, it's making the whole door lighter weight. And then with it being a lighter weight door and less material here, it's a lot easier on the door and it doesn't burn out the actuators. And the actuators is what's going to cause that door to open and close and really power the motor and have it do its feature. But what we were seeing is that the door was so heavy and there's so much material here doing a non-traditional open that a lot of people were burning out their actuators, having issues with the Traverse. And really, a lot of people were going back to vans because of how much trouble that they're having with the Traverse. But nowadays, and I always say that with our company, and you've heard me say it before, we put things where they don't belong. So at the end of the day, what's going to happen is every once in a while, you will have a fail rate because it isn't your traditional way that it opens like a van. But when it comes to the errors, it being finicky, things that we've seen on the last Traverse compared to this one, the engineers at Braun did a really good job of fixing those issues, or really limiting to what has happened in the Traverse. And so, yes, this is the new 2026 Traverse, and brought to you by Braun. and brownability. So feel free to take a look on the inside. It's going to be very similar to the wheelchair accessible vehicles. As you can see, kind of what we described before, everything from underneath the door down is what's been added and what's been extended. So similar to the vans, you're going to have that extra space for that power chair for someone to come in, be able to pull up, sit in the middle, face forward, and you're still going to be riding at the same point of view that everyone else is going to be because of the way that the floor is dropped and how everything is risen. And then you also have it too, to where similar like the vans, these seats, since it's cut up all the way to the very front and to the back like the van, you're going to be able to have the seats on top of bases, like how you do with the vans, to where you actually can go through and similar like how I showed you before, you unplug the power and then you have a pedal that you step on that pedal, it raises this base on wheels and then allows you to pull the seat out, and you can do it for passenger or driver. So once again, like the vans, you can have someone sit in the front passenger seat with the easy locker on the floor or using the tie down straps. So you can have your loved one right next to you. Or if someone wants to be able to take out the driver's seat, they can do that as well. And that would allow them to pull into the driver's position, and then they can use hand controls like how you saw on the truck and some of the other videos that we've done, get those installed, and then they can completely be independent and drive from their power chair and be able to sit in that front driver position. But once again, the Traverse is another option that is not a van. And if you guys can see, when you look at the truck and the Traverse, there are some limitations. And just like a van and other vehicles, sometimes it might not be for everyone, because what you get with the Chevy Traverse is limited space. Same with the truck, as you guys saw. You're only backing into that platform. So yeah, you have other options, but when it comes to the spacing, it can be very limited. So having a smaller power chair or even a manual chair is kind of what we more recommend, going that direction because of the spacing that you may have. But if at the end of the day you want an option to be able to sit in the SUV or truck and you're in a power chair, I'm never going to tell you no. We're just going to try it out and see if it works or not. But usually there's a solution for everyone, and we just got to figure out what that solution is.
Yeah. And it's so cool because with that, like with this option, people can really, I mean, you could be the passenger back here, like in the back, but you could also be like the passenger or the driver. So you have like all three options really with the SUV.
Yep. Similar to the van, the SUV
Same
is going to
thing.
be very similar to the van, to where you have the multiple options.
That's cool.
Only thing that's a little
Yeah.
different is it's SUV, and then you are, like I said, limited to a little bit of spacing. But as long as you have that space, SUV could be a route that you take besides going the route of a van.
That's cool. Whereas with the truck, like you said, you have to set the truck up. It's one or the other. You have to set it up for them to either be just the passenger or be just the driver, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And then also with the truck, there's a little bit more steps, because with this truck, they have it where if you come to me and you want to have a truck conversion, we have a compatibility sheet that we have to fill out with you, your chair, and the device that you had, to make sure that there's enough spacing and enough room in the truck for you and your manual wheelchair or your power chair. So there is kind of a little bit of, I guess, compatibility that we have to go through, and that extra step that we have to do. That's a little bit different compared to the vans and the SUVs, because usually the vans and the SUVs, we have them on site to where you can come in and we can test out the different ones, and you can pull in and you can see how you fit. With the truck, we usually don't have any here unless a customer has pre-ordered it, or we got a used one that came back from an existing customer. Because if we don't have that available, then usually 9 times out of 10, an individual is going through and they're buying a truck separately and then sending it to ATC to have it converted and then brought down, because it's what they want in a truck, the features in a truck and what they're paying for. They want to make sure that it's customized to what they're looking for.
And how long does that conversion normally take for trucks?
So usually about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
And we can send it up there, we can drive it up there, and then throughout the time, they let us know when it gets close to being done, and then we set up the arrangements to get it shipped back or have it driven back.
Very cool. And are there certain brands of trucks that you can do it with and certain ones you can't, or what does that look like?
So they used to do multiple trucks, but now it's only GMC. So GMC trucks you got to stick with the GMC brand. It could be different sizes. It could be a 1500, 2500, but it has to be in the GMC family.
Okay. What about with the SUVs? Is the Traverse mostly the SUV that is, done the most, or what about that?
Yeah, so when it comes to SUV options through Brownability, so Brownability used to do a Ford Explorer. So every once in a while you can find a Ford Explorer that's out there. Ford Explorer is going to be very similar to the Traverse, where it is going to be limited space, but it does give you another option besides the minivans that we have. But the one thing about the Ford Explorer is Braun quit doing the Ford Explorer because they went from front wheel drive to rear wheel drive. And so all the vehicles that you see that are converted, besides some of the trucks that could be 4x4, you're looking at front wheel drive vehicles. So since they went to the rear wheel, they quit doing the Ford Explorer. So that's where the SUVs kind of disappeared off the map for a while. And then that's what caused them to switch to the Chevy Traverse. Now the Chevy Traverse is the new SUV from Brown Ability that's crash safety tested and is the SUV that we recommend and stand behind. There are some other ones that are out there, but they're not crash safety tested. And I would say be very wary when it comes to those because of your safety and some of the things that they may do during the manufacturing stage that Braun doesn't, like splicing wires and getting all new wiring harnesses from the manufacturers and then actually being crash safety tested. So we really stand behind the Traverse for SUV. And then the one thing about the Traverse that's different from like the minivans and the ATC is you actually can't send them a Traverse and have them convert your own Traverse. Reason why is because there's so many different trim packages and all the different electronics in the Traverse that if you send them up, you may be at risk of not being able to convert your Traverse because of all the different packages. Because right now, a lot of these vehicles are having all these entertainment packages. They're putting like stereos in the headrest. They're doing all these additional items for the electronics that when they go in and they try to do the conversion, it really confuses the equipment. And then sometimes they find out that if you have the headrests that have the JBL or the special entertainment packages, what's happening is a lot of that wiring is going through your seat and through the center column. So when it comes to relocating and getting that set up for a wheelchair accessible vehicle, it just won't happen. And so that's one thing that they've told us not to do is send up customer supplied chassis, which that's what they call it when you send your vehicle off, because of that sheer reason of them not knowing what trim package it could be and the issue of not being able to convert it.
Interesting. I like it. Do the Traverses like this, do they come like off the line at the factory where they have the extra, built in, like on the bottom for like this particular, type of conversion? Or does it come off the line like a regular Traverse body and then they add that when they do the accessibility part?
Yeah, good question. So when it comes to the conversion of the Traverse, it's going to be very similar to the Toyota Sienna that we've seen, the Chrysler Pacifica, and the Honda Odyssey that Braun provides. But the one thing that they did with the Traverse is they actually dedicated a full line of just Traverses. So what they're doing is they'll get the Traverse from Chevy or some type of manufacturer, the original dealer, and it'll come as your typical Traverse. And then what they do, and I'd have to go back to check with Braun, but the last time I was there, they were going through 21 stations at about 20 minutes a station and start to finish. And by the time it ends the line, it's a fully converted wheelchair accessible vehicle, ready to go, ready for testing, ready to go through quality control. And then when they go through, that's where they're adding the additional trim, they're extending the vehicle. With them extending the vehicle and putting more surface area on the inside and outside, this is where you do get some of the running boards and the side plates and everything else that they add to it. And that's what happens at Braun when it's going through the manufacturing side.
Very cool. From a quality control standpoint and crash safety testing, et cetera, and just from a safety standpoint for the vehicles that have, the wheelchair abilities, et cetera, do they all still have like the side, airbag, curtains that come out and stuff like that? Or what is crash safety features in a vehicle like this or the truck compared to like a regular vehicle?
No, that's another good question. So when it comes to the airbags and all the crash safety testing, it is crash safety tested. The one thing that you do run into is the weight. You are going to get more weight on your vehicle, and you're also going to get more weight. You're also going to get a little bit more reinforcement with this pure steel floor that they're putting in and all the extra metal that comes onto the vehicle. So I've had a couple of customers, and we never want to hear it and we never want to see it, but they did have someone hit them, and they mentioned that with all the extra steel and all the extra components, they said that they barely felt anything, and their vehicle barely did anything and kind of just shook a little bit. And they said that the other person's vehicle had more damage. And we never want to see anyone hurt, but that extra material kind of helps out when it comes to the stability and the structure of the vehicle. And then also when it comes to the airbags aren't. We got to make sure we keep them in the same place. And quite frankly, lately there have been like side airbag curtains and recalls that have been done by Chrysler. So we still get those recalls, and we do have to take those vehicles to the traditional Chrysler dealership and have them do the recall and switch out the airbags and get them working again. So I know we went the long route, but yes, they do keep the airbags and keep all the safety features still intact, even though that they're going through and converting it and making a wheelchair accessible vehicle.
Sounds good. I just didn't know, yeah, if they had to like modify them at all, because of potentially where the wheelchair placement is, but especially in something like this where it can be in, all three different locations, like you'd kind of need them to be in the same spots.
Exactly. And the one thing is, guys, and unfortunately, if you are getting these newer cars, you guys are noticing that you're getting a lot of the airbags and the side and the front. That's all over the place. That nowadays we have a lot of people that'll reach out to us asking us if we can put grab bars in different areas of vehicles. And unfortunately, through all the technology, all the wiring, everything they're doing for safety now, we can't really put those grab bars and install extra loops and everything, because more than likely where we're putting them in is where those airbags are going to be at. And the last thing we want to do is compromise the safety of the airbags or put something in line with the airbags. Because think about if we did put a grab bar here or here and the airbags here, if you're in an accident and the airbag blows out, guess what's going to be going into the passenger, going to be hitting the person riding, possibly that grab bar that we attached. So unfortunately, I know that they help and we've done them in the past, but with all the technology and all the new features of vehicles, grab bars are kind of a thing in the past and we just aren't adding them as much. So just be wary if you're looking at getting a new car, if you're wanting to add some of those features, you think that everything will be solved by grab bars, more than likely we may not be able to do it. So something to think about when you're getting a vehicle in the future. Try to, take the time to understand where the height of the vehicle is, getting in and out of the vehicle, and seeing if you can get one at a proper height and size. Because at the end of the day, there's many times where I've seen customers to where they can only slide into the vehicle from the level of the floor. And if you get something like a truck or something that's a lot higher, or even some of these SUVs, it's hard to get into the vehicle. So, really take that time to see how you get in and out and determine if that's going to be the best option for you without having to add additional accessories and hope and wish that, hey, if I get something, maybe there will be something in the future. But you can always give me a call. I'm here to be a resource, and I can always go through and answer some of those questions for you as far as, can I add a grab bar? What can be done in my vehicle? What modifications can be done? But definitely give me a call and reach out to me before you spend a lot of money, because I've seen it where people spend tons of money, realize they can't do what they thought they could do. And then, as you guys all know, once you drive off a lot, car depreciates, and then you're sitting there upset or just thinking, what did I do to spend all this money on something that's not going to work? So we definitely want to be a resource for you and help you in your journey of finding a new car and just making sure it's the right vehicle for you.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I can see here, like we were talking about the airbag. So yeah, because like there's airbags here on both sides. And then back here, yeah, also that would come out. Okay. How would somebody lock themselves, like from a wheelchair standpoint? So they come in, and then how do you like lock yourself in here?
So
What do you do?
So there's two options. So we do have there's a couple options. So we have it to where we have our retractables.
Get out.
So more than likely you guys are used to seeing this. So if you ever got on any of the transportation companies that are out there. So there's a couple of them out there that they go through, and you probably seen these on Colorado or any of the public transportation that you may be at and transportation companies. But what they'll do is, this is made for if you have someone with you. So someone that's being occupied or have a caretaker, or what you're going to do is they have the little L tracks. You put the retractables in the L tracks, as you guys may be aware or seen. And what they do is you'll have 4 of them. They're self-retracting. And what you do is you put one on all 4 points of the chair. Once again, the person and the individual in the chair needs to be facing forward. but you want to go through and you want to use your tie downs and put them on all 4 points of the chair. You usually want to pick a place that's solid and welded and not a place on the chair that could possibly break off or fall off if there's ever an accident. It wants to be or needs to be a place where it can't be detached from the chair.
Thank you so much for joining Joey and I today at Southern Bus and Mobility. And, I hope you guys learn some really amazing information. I know for me, in this part one, seeing the truck was absolutely wild in the best kind of wild way. Again, just having someone that has to use, a type of vehicle that is going to be, disability compliant for having a chair, and them having the option of having such a cool, just regular, normal, again, looking truck and vehicle is just even, SUV also is just so, I think, life changing from a psychology standpoint, also for people, besides, like a physical standpoint as well. Like we learned that the trucks are able to be converted to where the person who's in the chair can be either the driver or the passenger. And then the whole truck is converted around that aspect. And, with SUV, you have the option, or the van. Also, if you go back and watch our previous videos that we did with Joey, where he demonstrated the van and some of the different options and features that those have. So the vans obviously had the option, as you guys remember, to be able to have the ramp, come out of the side, but it can also go out of the back. And so again, depending on your parking constraints, like again, how your driveway maybe is set up, or the places that maybe you frequent to shop or that you go to, events at, etc., depending on how the parking situation is. Sometimes it is easier for you to be able to exit, the back part of the vehicle instead of exiting, that side ramp, or like on the SUV, or potentially also how the truck has the gull wing that, like the whole side opens up, which is so wild and so cool. But the whole side pops up and then the chair comes out and then it goes down to the ground. The part, that you clip your chair into, and then it just puts you right back in. And and the whole literally side of the truck closes back down. But again, depending on your space and the places that you frequent, one option might be a better option than another. And, there's a lot of different things like this that Joey is absolutely amazing at, and so is the whole entire team at Southern Bus and Mobility. If you know someone that needs to start looking at, possibly like, okay, does it make sense to actually look at purchasing one of these kind of vehicles? You can also rent them from them as well. And Joey always recommends that, like to rent one, or rent some different kinds or things like that, just to kind of see again from a functionality standpoint what's going to work best, for you and your family. But yeah, they were totally helpful in terms of helping you all figure it out. So, if this is something that you think would be helpful information for a family member, a friend, a loved one, a neighbor, somebody at church, somebody that please, please, please share this information with them, because this can absolutely be life-changing. And again, a lot of it is just changing also kind of, like I said, that mental stigma from, they have to have, like the minivan looking van, when somebody needs to be in a chair, to like they have so many options now, again, just to help the person feel, more confident, and more normal, and, not potentially as, stigmatized as they would have been, before in the past. And, it just makes my little heart smile, and I love it. It's so exciting. And it's just so exciting, like again, the work and just the mission and vision and passion that all of these people, Joey and all the team at Southern Bus and Mobility have to be able to help you all navigate through these, through these life-changing decisions. So anyways, definitely reach out to Joey if you have any questions. They have 2 locations for Southern Bus and Mobility. They have one in Valley Park in Fenton, Missouri area, and then they also have one in Breeze, Illinois. So again, please make sure you share this, like the video, comment, subscribe to Aging Advantage, our YouTube or our Facebook page, so that you don't miss any other incredible opportunities like this for education. And again, go back and watch the other videos on Southern Bus and Mobility that we did with Joey. And, in the next one that we're going to have coming up as well, where we're going to go into this parking situation thing and some of, again, the features that you can really use to customize the vehicles for yourself. And how do you know what kind of customizations that you might need, or a loved one might need. And so Joey's going to go into all of that for us in our next video. So we will see you all over there.